here we are, day three, and you know, the number of unforced errors from the Sunak campaign it just keeps growing. You know, we've had the disaster of his initial launch in Downing Street. We've had the planted questions from Tory councillors at the factory visit that he did the other day. We've had the trip to the brewery where he didn't realise Wales hadn't qualified for the Euros. We've had his trip over to Northern Ireland today to the Titanic Museum. One of the journalists asked him when he got out of a little boat, "Are you captaining a sinking ship?" I mean, these are gifts. These are gifts from the metaphor elves. I mean, this is just extraordinary bad planning. We've had a Sky team forcibly kicked out of one of his campaign launches, and then we've got Rishi calling for these 6 debates because he doesn't want to be on the streets meeting people, because whisper it, he just isn't desperately good at it. And I think what we're going to see in the next few days is the realization that Rishi Sunak is a worse stump political campaigner than Theresa May was in 2017.
Let's pick up on the politics. It's been a busy week, of course, after the Prime Minister called that snap general election on Wednesday. The country is now gearing up to head to the polls on the 4th of July. And the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has been on a trip to Scotland today.
Scotland is absolutely vital to Labour government, not just numerically, although that's important, but also because if I'm privileged enough to come in to serve as the Prime Minister, I want to be the Prime Minister for the whole of the United Kingdom, and therefore powerful voices from Scotland matter.
And as you may now be aware, this evening, two high-profile Conservative MPs, Michael Gove and Andrea Leadsom, announced they'll be standing down come July. In an exclusive interview with Asma Mir and Stig Abel on Times Radio Breakfast this week, Michael Gove was asked about his future in politics, and he explained why he wouldn't be tempted to run for the Tory leadership once again.
I'm over the hill. So the next...
How old are you?
I think I can still help the government. I think I can still...
How old are you?
I am 56.
Okay, over the hill at 56.
Maybe a bit young for a Times Radio presenter, perhaps. But no, I hope Rishi stays as Prime Minister after the general election. I hope he stays as leader of the Conservative Party for as long as possible. By the time that he stands down, in the words of JFK, the torch will have passed to a new generation.
Gove over the hill at 56, same age as me. What is he talking about? Anyway, before we came on air, I spoke to Kevin Meagher, former Labour advisor and associate editor of Labour Uncut, and I asked him what he made of Labour's strategy so far.
I think partly, it's that hoary old adage that governments lose elections, oppositions don't win them, and it's not wholly true, but it's basically essentially correct that when a government is at the kind of fag end, this government's been in office for 14 years. How many prime ministers we had? 4, good grief. It's run out of ideas, it's run out of luck, it's run out of goodwill, and in a sense, Keir Starmer's strategy, sensibly, for any political leader, is to just let it carry on picking itself apart, and to be, to keep the focus very much on the government and why the government should get another 5 years. I mean, that's the essential question that's before the electorate. Why should this current government get another 5 years? And the kind of default thinking in the country, and it's evidenced by all the opinion polls, all the election results recently, is it shouldn't. It's time for a change. That word change, absolutely at the epicenter of the Labour strategy, playing to that as I say, that kind of mood in the country that just sort of says, let's give somebody else another go. This is now getting a bit tortuous.
But the next question then, Kevin, is change to what? And people are going to put him under more and more pressure to answer that. He hasn't been that candid today, even on the question of Diane Abbott, erstwhile Labour MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, not in the party as such, and doesn't have the whip, whereas, a former Tory MP, Natalie Elphicke, does have the whip. And people are saying, well, what kind of Labour Party is this that Keir Starmer's created?
I think this. This probably question will probably get resolved. I mean, the Labour Party kind of internal engineering is very much the Labour NEC, the National Executive Committee, is responsible for these things, and Starmer will be very keen to sort of say, look, I'm trying to fight a general election campaign. Let's pass this over to the NEC, and I would think over the course of the weekend we'll probably have some resolution to the situation with Diane Abbott and any of the other MPs that have been suspended from the Parliamentary Labour Party for any reason. There's a deadline of Monday evening for some of the outstanding selections as well, where people have gone. So these issues, these organisational issues, will crystallise, I would imagine, over the next kind of 72 hours anyway. But it comes down to that simple thing that you're campaigning poetry, you're governing prose, and it's very, in a general election campaign, if you can get any of your core messages to run and for people to take notice of them, that's a great success, because there is so much noise, so many questions, so much to-ing and fro-ing that actually, having very detailed responses to things is very difficult to communicate at this point. And Keir Starmer and his team are looking, and have been looking very seriously at government and how they would approach it, and looking at the public finances and what is possible in that early phase of a government when you've got a bit of goodwill, and then looking at the slightly longer term. So I suspect that they've got plans and certainly got direction of travel, but this is not the point to kind of throw in big stodgy chunks of policy proposal, because the public are not really listening in, and we're at the start of what's going to be 6 very long, very grueling weeks, and general election campaigns always turn into a chimp's tea party eventually. Everybody's throwing crockery at each other, and teas everywhere.
Yeah, well, 6 weeks, but not 6 televised debates, and the Tories are on front pages today or this morning saying, Keir Starmer's frit, he's running away. How do you think he needs to respond? Do you think he's actually nervous about debating Rishi Sunak, over an hour times 6?
No, not at all. I mean, the difficulty for any prime minister is that, you're aware of all the stuff that's going on, all the stuff that's in the in tray that's not perhaps even in the public domain yet. And it's very difficult to prep for these sessions, because, of course, it's your record that people are talking about. And it's going to be much more difficult, I suspect, for Rishi Sunak to prep and to actually perform in these televised debates than it will be for Keir Starmer or any of the other opposition leaders. But, here we are, day 3, and the number of unforced errors from the Sunak campaign it just keeps growing. We've had the disaster of his initial launch in Downing Street. We've had the planted questions from Tory councillors at the factory visit that he did the other day. We've had the trip to the brewery where he didn't realise Wales hadn't qualified for the Euros. We've had his trip over to Northern Ireland today to the Titanic Museum. One of the journalists asked him when he got out of a little boat, "Are you captaining a sinking ship?" I mean, these are gifts. These are gifts from the metaphor elves. I mean, this is just extraordinary bad planning. We've had a Sky team forcibly kicked out of one of his campaign launches, and then we've got Rishi calling for these 6 debates because he doesn't want to be on the streets meeting people, because whisper it, he just isn't desperately good at it. And I think what we're going to see in the next few days is the realization that Rishi Sunak is a worse stump political campaigner than Theresa May was in 2017.
Right. What about Jeremy Corbyn? We now know he's going to stand as an independent in Islington North. Will Labour HQ be happy or quietly nervous? Because there's an awful lot of people polled today, or Vox Pop today, who say they're going to vote for him. They know him. He's been there 40 years.
I mean, you'd have to sort of say, in all fairness to Jeremy Corbyn, he should never have been leader of the Labour Party. He was completely playing out of position. But Jeremy Corbyn's strengths are that he is a compassionate man. He's been a good constituency MP. He's got a good record. Everybody kind of sort of says this and speaks to this.
And he represents a Labour that a significant percentage, I don't know exactly what it is, of the population, certainly in his local area and across the country, still recognise and still want to see.
Absolutely. The Labour Party's got to be a broad church, and in different circumstances, Jeremy Corbyn would be, I think, still part of it. But he is an assiduous constituency MP. He's been there 40 years. He's got a good record. He's got a good reputation. Is that going to be enough? I suspect it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think at this stage it will be lots of people from the political left will pile in there and willingly go and help Jeremy Corbyn, and that's going to count for something. But I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think the Labour brand is very strong, and we see in British politics time and time again, whether it's on the left or on the right, we see usurpers and independents and smaller parties rise up. But actually, we've got a very strong system that reasserts itself eventually between the centre left Labour and centre right Tories, and it's very difficult for anybody else to get a look in, really. So I think it'll be a lot closer. There'll be some colour and some flavour to it and all the rest of it, but I suspect it'll be who can slog the hardest, really, and get around get around on the knocker. But it'll keep Jeremy Corbyn. It'll keep Jeremy Corbyn very busy, and I think the Labour high-ups will see that they will have priced in that he was going to stand and that he may win, and if he does, it's not the end. It's not the end of the world, because there's a bigger prize, which is obviously winning the election outright.
That's the former Labour advisor Kevin Meagher talking to me a short time ago.